Blockchain developer demand is absolutely through the roof. It's one of the highest paying fields in tech with limitless upside potential. But what about for absolute beginners? Is it really possible to change your career and break into this industry and become a highly paid blockchain developer like if you have zero coding experience? Well, the answer is yes, and there's actually a formula to doing this. I've done it. I've helped lots of other people do it. And in this video, I'm going to break down what that formula is so that you can see how it's done. So in order to do this, we're going to look at a case study, all right? I've actually invited Ethan, a guest on the channel today, because he just went through this process, all right? He started off with zero coding experience, zero technical knowledge a year ago, went through all the training that we do here at Dapp University, and now I've actually personally hired him to work with me. So you're probably going to be seeing a lot more of Ethan on the channel here pretty soon, but I want to invite him on today so we can reverse engineer what he's done so that you can learn from each of these steps, and we're going to drop a bunch of like really crazy secrets along the way that you're going to find really valuable. So before we get into that, if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to master blockchain step by step, start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. All right, so welcome to the channel, Ethan.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, great, man. So I'm super excited to have Ethan on the channel today because Ethan is somebody who has a great story of accomplishing exactly what we try to help you do on this channel, especially at Dapp University, is how to transition to this field, become a real world blockchain developer, no matter where you're starting from. Whether you're a coder already and you want to transition into blockchain, or whether you want to start from scratch with no prior technical knowledge, with no coding experience, and then make that transition to actually working as a blockchain developer. So lots of people do this, and Ethan was able to do it in under a year. Yes. So yeah. So what I want to do in this video is kind of highlight that, talk about how he did it, okay? Because that's the value I would provide in this video for you all, is to see, like, here's what Ethan did, and you can learn from this experience. So we're super excited to do this, Ethan. I guess let's just jump into it. Tell us a little bit more about what your background was before you got into this. Like, when did you start this journey?
Yeah, so I started this journey at the beginning of 2021. I had a goal in mind of teaching myself how to code, but I wasn't really sure exactly what to specialize in, what programming language to start with. So I think I remember it was around late January, around this time last year, when I just went on YouTube and I started Googling I think I started off learning C++, just doing some basic C++ tutorials. But I really wasn't going really far with that. But then eventually around late February, I stumbled upon your channel because I was interested in cryptocurrency and whatnot. I was even a Dogecoin investor. And then I looked at your channel and I was like, wait, you're probably the first person to introduce me to the world of blockchain development. I can merge the world of coding and blockchain into one. And this is a legitimate career field. And you pitched that there was a lot of promise there. So I was like, okay, well, let me look more into this. So I followed your courses. The first one I did was a 3-hour coding tutorial course, learn blockchain in 3 hours. I did that. I did a few of your other tutorials. And then after that, I was like, you know what, I'll just take the next step. And I took your boot camp, and it took me about 3 weeks to complete it. And then after that, I was like, you know what, I just need to start, just jump straight into building my own project, because that's what you say in your channel. You want to get to the point where you're building real world projects unguided as soon as you can, because that's where your learning is really going to skyrocket the most, is when you're at that stage. So I did that. And then, after I took the boot camp, it took me about 12 weeks to complete. It was very challenging because, like I said, coming from zero coding experience. After that, I was like, you know what, let me just brainstorm potential project ideas. And I really wanted to build something that was pretty novel, something that not a lot of people have thought of, not a lot of implementations. And then after 3 weeks of brainstorming, I was like, hey, maybe I could build a clone of a Kickstarter that's maybe powered by IPFS, powered by smart contracts that are on the Ethereum network. So I did that. And I have to say that the first couple of months was just extremely challenging. I mean, in the beginning, there was a couple of points where I almost quit, but I remember referencing back to your videos, and your early motivational videos really helped to keep me going on this journey. And eventually I just persevered. And I'd say yeah, like 3 months into it, I started to get the ball rolling. And I don't know, eventually just things started to click. And what really helped was like just building something, applying my knowledge and building something original, something of my own creation really helped to motivate me throughout this journey. And eventually like within like 4 months from the day after I finished the boot camp, which was around like late May. So around 3 months later, so I'd say like around September, October-ish time frame, late October, I finished the first version of my decentralized like crowdfunding app, like similar to Kickstarter. And then like I made a second version of it because I realized the first version had a lot of like security vulnerabilities and whatnot. And then I finished the second version around I'd say like late November, early December. And then at that point, I was like, you know what, I think I'm prepared to start preparing for jobs, because I know in your videos you talked about like really all it takes is like one professional level portfolio, like project that you have on your portfolio. That's all you need to really start like applying to jobs. That's all you need to market to employers that you have the skills to pay the bills. So that's what I did. And I saw that you were hiring a blockchain developer and I applied, and the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
I want to call out some things in there that you said that are really valuable, because in the day, let's know people on this channel, on this video, to be able to see is, you know, that this whole process works, you know,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
and really in this video, try to break it down on what the pressure points are, what the really important things are, so you can capture value out of this and do the same thing. Because
Yeah.
you know, a lot of what I've described in here, that Ethan has described from watching the channel and doing everything, sort of the philosophy that we have here is really similar to what I did when I broke into programming, just in the first place. You know, I was already a developer before I got into blockchain, but, you know, this is sort of the method that, I mean, I didn't invent this method from scratch, right? Like I've seen this done time and time again across, you know, different software initiatives. But so, let's maybe start off with the first thing. So actually, basically everything Ethan just talked about was I've detailed like this outline multiple times. You definitely go check out the video pinned on my YouTube homepage called "How to Become a Blockchain Developer in 2022." It's going to go through all this type of stuff. But let's start off with the first big thing in there, which is a big misconception a lot of people have is, you know, when you're becoming a blockchain developer, like, should you learn blockchain first? My answer is always no. You should just jump in and learn blockchain and then learn everything else as you go. So what was your experience of that like?
Oh, yeah. And I remember when I was first telling other people like, hey, I'm trying to become a self-taught developer, I'm jumping into blockchain development right away. There was a lot of people who were saying like, no, you should start off with JavaScript first. You could take these JavaScript tutorials. I'm like, no. I want to learn as fast as possible. And the best way to do that, I found, was just through immersion. Yes, it's difficult. It's going to be a lot more challenging than just following a bunch of like, you know, free like little tutorials they have on like free Codecamp JavaScript tutorials and whatnot. Like, yeah, it's a lot harder than that, but you learn at a much faster rate, and you're able to like see you're learning the language, and you're applying the language to build something that is actually a real app that solves some sort of real world problem, you know, and it motivates you to learn, as opposed to just learning the syntax of a language and not really applying that to build anything useful. So I found that super helpful in the beginning.
Totally. So I guess the message from that, if anybody wants to try to follow in the similar path that we teach on this channel that Ethan has done, is that you should start with blockchain first.
Yes.
You know, and so it's just like you're saying before, you get all these people that are like, no, you should go learn this, you should go learn that. And it's like I always say, you know, you're going to forget almost all that stuff later. So like when you learn blockchain through immersion first, it's going to stick way more because you're going to see why it's happening. You know, one of the most common things people say in school is, when am I ever going to use this? Right. And then they forget stuff because they lack context. There's no spot, like there's no place in the house for that piece of furniture to go yet. Right. So you're just like buying all this stuff that's going to disintegrate before you put it into this house of your mind for a functional skill. So
for sure.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think a lot of people, when they say go learn this other stuff first, it's like they're just kind of biased to what they did, right? Yeah. And they think that you have to do the same thing. And I guess you could maybe say I'm guilty of the same thing, but what I'm doing works. It works faster. This is pretty good evidence of that. So I want to talk about the next step. So learning blockchain first. So what did that look like? You mentioned that you started off with did you just jump straight into that 3-hour free tutorial on YouTube?
Yeah, I did. I just followed along with what you were saying. Obviously, I felt very confused initially, but day by day, I would create take little I would spend an hour, dedicate an hour each day to building it out. And yeah, I just did that, and then I followed along with your other tutorials, and then eventually I would just you know what, I just want to jump straight into the boot camp and take that next step. So yeah, totally. And so one tip that I try to give people when they're learning, a couple things. One is when you're doing tutorials, just finish the tutorial even if you don't understand everything. You know what I mean? And then it's going to take less total time for you to probably just do the tutorial twice than it is to stop and then try to figure out everything before you move on to the next step. Did you do any of that type of stuff? Yeah. So what I did was I just tried to follow along with the tutorial, and there's parts where I really don't understand what this means, but I'm just going to continue on with it. And I just continued doing more and more tutorials, but eventually just have faith that those things you don't understand, as long as you're continuing to do tutorials and you're continuing to learn and build your own project, eventually it's all going to as I say, just click. It's going to click eventually. I think it's kind of a waste of time of just going down a rabbit hole, oh, I don't really understand what he's typing here, and then constantly searching up, and then looking up the syntax for this one little thing that in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter too much. You're going to pick up those languages, those little syntactic details, grammar, later on as you're building out projects. So that's what I advocate. Yeah, totally.
And that's definitely what I try to recommend people do. And I don't know if you did this, but when you're in that initial phase, it's okay if you didn't do this, but I'm just going to throw this as a tip. Sometimes people don't have an accurate account for how much time they're actually spending learning, and they think they spent a bazillion hours when maybe they've actually spent 5 or 10. You know what I mean? And so I actually advocate people to track their time when they're learning initially. Yes. Did you do that?
No, I did that actually the whole journey. So what I did is I broke down my study sessions into Pomodoro. So 25 minutes of intense focus, no distraction, then 5 minutes of break. And I've literally logged all of them from the beginning of 2021. And I found that super motivational. And I'd set goals for myself. I need to make sure I'm reaching 40 Pomodoros this week. And that's what helped me to stay accountable. So
yeah. And so when you're doing most of this learning, were you working another job? Were you in school? What was that like?
Yeah. So I was, so from, I'd say around late March to September, I was working about 37 hours a week, almost full time as a lifeguard. And then, so I was doing that for a bit, and I'd say, I was only able to dedicate about 20 hours a week to coding. And then eventually, I felt I was learning a lot, but I really wanted to just maximize my learning. I wanted to be able to learn 40 hours a week, and I really couldn't quite do that working almost 40 hours a week at the job I was at. So what I did is I quit and I picked up another job. I picked up this IT job at a local community college nearby, and I was working about 20 hours a week during that job. But the benefit of having that job is that there was a lot of downtime, and I was able to code on that downtime. So I was easily able to code 40 hours a week. Sometimes I code up to 50 hours a week. And I think that's where my learning was able to just really skyrocket after that.
Yeah. So yeah, totally. And as always, if you have more available time, you're just going to get results faster. And obviously that's a big part of Ethan's story here. And I don't always recommend people quit their job in order to learn coding. It sounds like that was the right decision for you at the time. But just to be clear, if everyone's watching this video, you can follow this entire path by setting aside a dedicated amount of time where you're working a full-time job, which you probably could have. You probably could have achieved your similar level results while you had that previous job. I'm just calling that out for people watching the video who are trying to kind of figure out maybe what the best course of action, because that's what people want to know is how do I concretely put this plan into place? And I think the more value we can give them on what that looks like, the better. So, okay, so that was your learning process of kind of just jumping in. And that's what I always say, just go grab one of those tutorials on the homepage, go through that, kind of get your feet wet. But then, you actually jumped into the boot camp, which, if you're watching, if you don't know what that is our main step-by-step curriculum on how to start from scratch, basically, and then go on to build like a real world, like professional level project. So, that was kind of the next step. So how long did it take you to complete the boot camp again?
Well, so I'd say okay. So I finished it all out within a matter of like following along and coding it. I finished it within around 9 weeks, but then after that, I rewatched the entire boot camp, like I think 2 times over, and I took a lot of like comprehensive notes after doing that.
Yeah.
And then after doing that, I was like, okay, I feel like the boot camp equipped me with the knowledge of the tools like Web3.js, like the basics of Solidity, like Truffle framework. I knew enough about those tools to actually start building my own real world project. And that's I think the purpose of the bootcamp really is to do. And it did that for me. Like I definitely felt confident enough in my skills to just jump straight into that decentralized crowdfunding app. So
Yeah, totally. That's really similar to like my trajectory and what I did. I learned a very similar way, and then same kind of thing. You just do the entire curriculum without trying to worry about all the details. You just get through it. Gain that context, and maybe you could do it again. That's when you can go take notes. You can do all this type of stuff, really hammer on the details. But then let's talk about that next step, because this is where I always say where your learning really, really kicks in, is when you go try to build something for yourself. Because there's like, when you're going on this process, there's always this catch-22 of like, you can't really, there's no way to really simulate exactly what it's like to work a real developer job, right? But you got to get close. You know what I mean? Yeah. You got to get close. And so how do you get close? And also, how do you get your first job with that experience? Like, those are 2 hard problems. Like, you got to get your first job, you got to get experience, and there's no way that you can know what it's like to work a really developer job. So my strategy for that is you get experience outside the workplace, and you do that by creating your real world project, and that's where your learning, comes into play. So that's what I did. You can use that for your portfolio. We talk about that in a minute. But let's talk about your project that you built, and what was that experience like, and how did that help you really solidify that knowledge?
Yeah, for sure. So I'd say like there was a lot of, so in the process of building this app, I learned just super valuable meta skill that I think like all developers eventually learn, which is just learning how to learn, like learning how to Google stuff, learning how to get unstuck from problems. And that's, So what I did was like, whenever there's an error code or whatnot, I just had over time, I developed a method for like overcoming the walls that I would get stuck on. Like if there's some bug or whatnot, like what I would do or error code is I'd first like Google it. And then after that, I would perhaps like reach out on like Discord or communities, whatnot. And if I was still stuck on it, I would take some deep breaths and then be done for the day, wake up, and then I would look at it with a fresh perspective. And that's kind of the methodology I used to like overcoming the walls that inevitably came to my way. And like, if you're building anything unguided, like you're inevitably going to run into walls. And but the thing is, you learn the most by overcoming those walls in your development. Like that's where you gain the skills of a professional developer, learning how to get unstuck. So
totally. I mean, everybody in their development career ends up on the same path, which is self-learning. Sure. And if you start your coding journey on that path, you're going to be way better equipped to like hang in the workplace. Because I mean, at the end of the day, like nobody's going to hold your hand on everything. You know what I mean? Exactly. Like, people can train you and all that type of stuff, but the whole goal is for you to become an independent, autonomous developer. And if you can become that before you get hired, like that's how you get hired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's awesome. That's exactly. So tell me about the project. It's a decentralized crowdfunding app. So what did you create? Smart contracts, front end, what all that involves?
Yeah, so I built so it involves smart contracts, Ethereum smart contracts. It also involved IPFS. So basically, the way it works is that like users can create their own crowdfunding project, and then they specify like a funding goal for the project, and then a time frame to reach that funding goal. And it's kind of like an all or nothing model, like Kickstarter. If the project doesn't reach its funding goal by the specified date, then all the funds that get essentially all the people who donate to the app, they can claim a refund for their funds, and it doesn't get dispersed to the creator of the project. But if it does meet its funding goal, then the creator gets funded. Yeah, they can claim the funds.
Yeah, totally.
So that's the way it worked. And also, like, there's also like an image associated with each project, and then I stored those images on IPFS, and I stored referenced those images on the blockchain. So I integrated both IPFS and Ethereum smart contracts as well. And I also built like a front end website, JavaScript using React. So it was a full stack, I guess, like Web 3.0 based application, because it not only integrated like smart contracts, but also like distributed file systems, which go under the umbrella of Web 3. So,
I think that's a perfect portfolio project because it's like a Web 3 stack. You know what I mean? It puts everything together. That's kind of like what I did when I got started in full stack web development before I got into blockchain. And so, and you know, I always tell people when they're at this level, once they've gone through some just, you know, really basic stuff, they've gone on to do a guided tutorial and they're building their own thing. There's a couple different ways you can go. You can start with something you've already done and add features, or you can just dive in the deep end and build something from scratch, which is really the best thing. And that's kind of what you did here.
Yep.
Yeah. And so once you did that, did you like, you know, did you deploy this live to the web? Did you like create some portfolio and all that type of stuff?
Yeah. So what I did is I deployed it to using Heroku, and I deployed the contracts on a test net. I believe it was the Robston test net. And then I had a few of my friends beta test it. And I also reached out to several Discord communities where there were professional developers, Solidity developers on there. And then I had them look at my code, and they're actually really impressed. They're like, yeah, you're at the level where you could probably definitely get hired by someone. And then it was at that point that I applied to Dapp University. So
awesome. So there was some good timing there. So, you know, we opened up some slots to grow the team at the end of the year, beginning of this year, and had a lot of strong applicants in there. And you know, now I want to kind of talk about this part, being on the other side of this is, of course, you know, I've hired Ethan. He's going to be working on the team here at Dapp University. You're going to see, you know, more of him probably on the YouTube channel and, you know, inside the blockchain mastery community, all that type of stuff. So I want to talk about this, you know, talk about this phase of things from maybe employer's perspective and also, you know, maybe Ethan's perspective of getting that first job. So, you know, what I always say, you know, because I've seen this problem from every single angle. Like I've had no coding experience, learned to code, you know, get that first job, or I started as a freelancer, right? I'll just say job, but getting your first work as a professional developer with no experience, transitioning into blockchain. I've worked a regular developer job. And now hiring developers. So it's like I've seen every single side of it. You know, when you're starting out from scratch, going back to this problem I was saying before, how do you get experience outside the workplace? You build your own projects. That also is like what employers are going to look for whenever they are hiring somebody who doesn't have a coding job background, no professional experience, is they want to see that, because at the end of the day, they're paying you to provide value for their team.
Yeah.
And how do they assess that? Well, they're probably going to go through some sort of assessment in the hiring process, which is like what we did with Ethan for sure. But you kind of have to filter, you know, applicants because you can't send everybody through that process, right? And so you have to stand out in some way. And so that's why I always talk about like having your portfolio, just showing people what you do. Like what's the thing that they're looking for in the job application, and how can you instantly show them that you can do that without ever talking to them? And so, you know, we needed a content creator on the channel. You know, when Ethan applied, like he just had a content creation video. Like that's exactly what we needed. You know, that is the portfolio for this case. Maybe a little bit different from a regular developer job. But it's just like figure out what they need. And then if somebody just opens an email and has a 5-second impression, how is that 5-second impression going to basically like puts you at the top of the list of people that they want to look at. And so that's why I would say portfolio is key. A website that quickly shows them who you are, what you can do, click through to a project, look at it, and then they can go work out all the details later, throughout the process. So I guess I'll ask you, Ethan, what's something maybe on your perspective, like going through the hiring process, if there's any tips that you can give them? Because it's been a long time since I've been in that position.
Yeah, I would say, when you're applying to that first job, I can't stress this enough. Like, it's imposter syndrome is a real thing. You might not feel like you're ready enough, but you have to understand that like just a little bit of blockchain knowledge can get you a long way. Because there's a massive demand for blockchain developers. The supply is relatively small compared to the demand. So if you know enough to have built like your own like professional level project, like that's your ticket. That's all you really need, I'd say. And at that point, applying the job, yes, you're not going to know everything, but you can learn on the job as you go. So just don't be afraid to apply. Like once you have that first project, just go for it. And be structured about it too. Put your resume out there to many different jobs. And then if you receive some rejection, just don't take it personally. Like, try to get some feedback, and then like use that feedback to work on your portfolio, like improve your skills, and it's just a process. It takes time, but eventually you'll get there. Just stick with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally think that's key. I think it's a good like rule for yourself, so you're not like making a judgment call. It's like once you've got that project portfolio piece done that looks like a professional level project, and you can just check yourself, like if you've gone through the boot camp, you can say, is this as complex as this or more? Then that answer is yes. And then you get that a portfolio where it's easy to pitch to people, and then you just start and try to get feedback, like because you're never gonna wait forever. Like you can't wait forever, right? You have to just try. And it's like when you're getting your first job, somebody has to take a chance on you. And so how do you increase the likelihood that's going to happen as you look for a lot of opportunities? And then, if you keep getting rejected, you try to get that feedback, and you can always just keep working on your stuff. You know what I mean? Like while you're doing it. Oh, for sure. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So let me think here. I mean, we've covered a lot. I think, what I really wanted to do was help people get, your fresh perspective on going through this process and all the tips. Is there anything else that you can think of that they're just things that stick out in your mind that people who want to take this same journey, any wisdom that you can impart? Oh yeah, for sure. So what I'd say is that, I kind of like coding. I liken coding to, like, I guess, working out. Initially, when you start working out, it can be pretty painful, and you're not going to really see many visible results within perhaps the first month. You're going to feel like you're not learning that much. There's just all the information is so new. But at that stage, I feel like a lot of people, they just give up too early. But what I advocate so much is that just stick with it enough, and then eventually you're going to get to the point where you're starting to develop on guide, and you're like, wait, I think I know how to code this out without looking up how to do this on Google. Like, I have enough confidence here. Like, I looked at this source code and this tutorial project. I think I could do something similar in my project. And then you just code it out, and then eventually things will just click. But it takes meaningful time. And as long as you are documenting your progress, you're disciplined about it, you're committing to X hours per week, eventually the results will come. You just got to stick to it. Be persistent. Yeah. So. Yeah. You have to trust the process for sure. And that's why I think a couple things there, like keeping that timesheet's going to really help you have a sanity check there. So it's like, you can't look at your timesheet and say, I spent 20 hours and decide like whether you're good at coding or not. I've seen a lot of really smart people like try to go on the coding path and just bounce. Right. Because it's not just about how smart you are. You just got to be smart enough. And, there's a good chance if you're watching this YouTube channel and you've like been doing some tutorials that's probably the case. So from there, it's just about like persistence, what I mean? And just waiting for the results to come. So, you know, that's what the timesheet's really critical sanity check for that. The other thing is like like setting a quota for yourself that's really realistic. Like if you can only code for an hour a day, like that's all you can do to get started, then just do that. Like starting is better than not taking action. And you don't want to say my goal is 6 hours a day if you can't do 6 hours, or even if it's 2 hours a day and you can't do 2 hours, just commit to it. And maybe you can't do it every day. Maybe it's X number of hours per week. Maybe you spend, 30 minutes a day during the week and you spend a couple hours on Saturday and Sunday, whatever it is. Like something's you just gotta find a system and then stick to the system.
Exactly.
Yeah. And maybe, that's why I always say people should set a goal of a year when they're going down this process, because, you may not, work tends to take the amount of time you give it. So if you have a goal in mind, it's way more likely that you're going to be close to that goal than if you're just like, well, I'm just going to do it till it works. Set that goal. But even if you don't hit it and after a year, you're really close, just keep going. It's going to be worth it.
Exactly. For sure. It's like you're running a marathon. You're at the home stretch. Just keep on going.
Yeah, totally. Anything else that you could think of that would be super valuable for people who are, anything else that you could think of that jumps out at you?
I would say, just don't be don't be afraid to jump onto any like Discord group chats, or try your best to reach out to any other professional developers if you can, if you have that opportunity. You even join the masterclass program. There's a whole Slack group channel, and there's a professional developers there who are there to answer any questions. So utilizing a resource like that, it's super beneficial. I use a resource like that quite heavily on my career path. So just don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah, part of that also kind of gets you to ready for the remote work collaboration that you're going to experience anyway. If you become a remote developer, it's like communicating with people over, chat communities and getting help kind of asynchronously and, online.
Yep.
Well, I think that's good. Anything else before we wrap up here?
No, I think we've covered a lot of ground. Yeah. So we're good.
Awesome. Well, great job, Ethan. You've done the entire path here from zero to hero. No coding knowledge, no technical knowledge, to becoming a professional blockchain developer with everything we teach on this channel. So hats off to you for putting in the work. Hope everybody got a lot of value out of this video today on how to actually do this, step by step. And so the tips and tricks along the way from somebody who has just walked the path themselves. So again, you're probably going to see more Ethan on this channel pretty soon. We're super excited to have him on the team. Ethan, thanks for coming on. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button. That really helps his videos out, so then we can learn about blockchain. We can grow this whole industry just like this. And if you want to take action on exactly what Ethan has talked about today, you can go to the YouTube homepage. You can find those free tutorials there, even some of the ones that Ethan did himself when he was starting out. And, once you've done those and you want to jump in that next professional level, then we can definitely show you how to do that over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. So that's all we got. We'll sign off for today. You must say bye-bye to everybody, Ethan.
Yep, bye. And I'm looking forward to producing content here at Dapp University. Super excited for this role. So, you'll see more of me.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds great. So that's all we got for today. And until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.